Washington, D.C., the epicenter of power and influence. It's here that Senator Bernie Sanders, at 83 years old, has launched his Fighting Oligarchy tour. His mission? To take on corporate greed, low wages, and climate change, issues he's championed for decades. The 83-year-old socialist firebrand is back, launching his Fighting Oligarchy tour. His mission? To take on the billionaires he's been battling since before some of his supporters were even born. This time, Bernie's sights are set on corporate greed, stagnant wages, and yes, climate change. But let's be real. Is Bernie still relevant in today's Democratic Party?
Bernie Sanders turned out to be a big fan.
With the Democratic establishment shifting toward younger, more centrist leadership, Sanders finds himself in a familiar position, an outsider in his own party. Yet, his die-hard base remains loyal, and his message still hits a nerve in an America where wealth inequality has only worsened.
All right, the Democratic Party, they remain leaderless, and party infighting has only intensified following Chuck Schumer's support for the Republican funding bill. And NBC News is now reporting several House Democrats, they are urging AOC to primary Schumer in 2028. Starting today, the Congresswoman is joining Bernie Sanders at a series of rallies in Arizona, Nevada, Colorado. And that's further sparking questions about her considering a run for higher office, which, by the way, it may surprise you, I am highly supportive of. After all, she is the true leader of the radical Democratic Party. Let her hold her rightful position. And according to a new CNN poll, voters believe AOC embodies the party's core values more so than both Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom.
Some see him as a necessary voice of resistance, holding the powerful accountable. Others argue he's simply replaying the greatest hits of his 2016 and 2020 campaigns, with no real shot at shifting the party's direction.
Moving forward, who's the face to the Democratic Party?
Those people, working class people, young people, people who get their hands dirty, people who may not have graduated college, people who do not have PhDs in economics, people who are struggling to put food on the table. They've got to be involved. We got to listen to them. They are the future of the Democratic Party. And if we're going to transform this country and stop Trumpism, they are the people who are going to have to take the lead.
Interesting. Torian, help us understand what that means. What policies are we hearing from both Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez?
Yeah, good morning, Arrow. So I found Nydia's conversation with Senator Sanders to be quite instructive. Really, we've heard the greatest hits of not just his presidential campaign, but also of the progressive policies or party's policies. We're seeing here some of the same things he said back in 2016 and 2020 about the need for universal health care, the appetite for increasing the federal minimum wage, and the massive crowd that we saw there seems to indicate that there is still this push for the Democratic Party to be pushed more toward the left, especially considering both the 2020 and 2024 presidential candidates and ultimately nominees made this attempt to reach toward the center. We're now seeing that this pushback to how Democrats have reacted in response to President Trump's agenda has created this rift in the party, which is why we see both Senator Sanders and Representative Ocasio-Cortez out speaking to these voters, really getting ahead of the Democrats' ire.
And as
Love him or hate him, you can't ignore him. But will his revolution finally spark real change? Or is this just one last ride for Bernie before the curtain falls?